name is Whitney Taylor, and many people think that I will probably choose the ethical issue about funding for schools or teacher raises because that's a big thing going on right now. But I decided the ethical issue that I was going to discuss is schools using standardized testing as the only way to evaluate the students in progress and growth throughout the year. Albert Einstein once said, "Everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree, it will live its whole life believing that it is stupid." In schools, standardized testing is one of the ways they evaluate students throughout the year. Teachers and schools use these scores to show the growth the students has throughout the school year. Every child is different. They learn different, they develop different, and they progress differently at their own paces. This being the case, we should not test each child the same with the same test and expect these kids to get the exact same score. Standardized tests are such high stakes in schools, we begin to test students at a younger and younger age. We are creating good test takers instead of good problem solvers and critical thinkers. The children in early childhood classrooms should be playing instead of worrying about sitting down at a desk all day and taking tests or becoming good test takers. We put such importance on students passing these tests, we fail to realize that not every student will shine or show progress through these tests. We should use many different types of assessments to evaluate students throughout the school year. Some students are just not good test takers, but are great students. They deserve an assessment that shows their strengths. Many teachers have been teaching to the test, meaning we are so worried about the students passing these tests, we only teach certain curriculum and have the kids memorize what will be on the test instead. This is doing a disservice to the students because they are not using higher levels of thinking, such as analyzing and synthesizing, which are very important as they get older. Students are becoming only a score to the teachers in schools. Schools receive funding from how well the students do on the test. This makes the test even more important for the students to pass. I think there should be more than one way for schools to receive funding from testing. I understand the schools need to show that they are meeting the standards required by the state and districts. There are many disadvantages to only using standardized tests to evaluate students. These include causing major stress to students, parents, and teachers in the school year, teachers only teaching to the test, tests not being authentic for each individual student themselves, and considers only one test performance and evaluation for students, which means that if a kid fails this test, they could be held back in the grade just for having a bad day. Also, many people don't think about the day of the test. What happens when a student is just having a bad day? Or if they are sick that day? Also, how about the kids who don't have the best home life? There are so many different scenarios as to why a student didn't do well on a test. Since standardized tests offer narrow information on many forms of intelligences, relying heavily on them harms students because they are basically setting up these students up for failure. Because they do not measure the students' potential for success accurately. We are basically setting these students up for failure if their future is based solely on these test scores. I understand we can't just stop doing the testing every year. However, I do believe if I can find a way to not make them such high stakes for students, teachers, and schools. I think a solution to not putting such high stakes on the standardized test is having more than one way to evaluate the students' progress and growth in a year. Portfolios are a great way to show the students, teachers, and parents' growth throughout the school year. A student portfolio is a compilation of academic work and other forms of educational evidence assembled to show progress and can also show the students meeting the standards set forth by the school districts in the state. I also like the idea of portfolios because they are archives that can be actually pulled and shown when needed. Each student learns differently and at different paces. I also believe portfolios help show each student's individual growth in a school year. They are also reliable and valid forms of assessments. They are actual work the students have done throughout the year. I believe portfolios and standardized testing together could be a great combination of showing the students' successes. This will make standardized testing not such a stress for students, teachers, parents, and schools during the school year. We use portfolios in college. For example, the chalk and wire assessments we do for the teaching program show that we are meeting the standards and we understand the material. I think that this will make each student shine, also help them become problem solvers and critical thinkers, and they'll also help them start using their higher levels of thinking, such as analyzing and synthesizing.